I launched my coaching practice yesterday, which has been about 6 months or so in the make. And having spent years doing it for clients and advising them on how to market themselves, when you've got to do it for yourself, all of a sudden you realize it's incredibly difficult. But launched it has, and fingers crossed that'll go well. I looked at various different providers of coaching qualifications. I was recommended, along with a few others, the Academy of Executive Coaching. And the reason why I eventually plumped for that was because I think it felt like it was authentic and down to earth, and gave a nice, good grounding in the fundamentals of coaching without, necessarily being too academic or being too transactional in its focus. And I think it gave enough room to be able to decide what kind of coach you wanted to be. And I think that was borne out in the group that I had. So, it's the classic thing. You all turn up on the first day of a course and you think, right, okay, these are the people I've now got to be friends with and talk with and lay my soul bare to. And, it's very easy to get over that. And I think what struck me was the diversity of the group that we had. There were people in marketing like myself. There were lawyers. There were people from oil and gas. There were people from the education sector, from anywhere and everywhere. And I think that's what made it such a good group, all with different motivations for wanting to join the course. Some like me, who had a long-term plan to want to move into coaching. And there were others as well who wanted to add it to their skill set as part of their role. So a number of people who were head of people and who wanted to add it to their skill set for that. And I think what that enabled us to do was, when we had all of the practical exercises, which we got into very quickly, I think within the first half day, which I think surprised everyone, because I think everyone thought we were going to be on broadcast for the first, or we're going to be on listen mode rather, for the first day or so. But oh no, straight into practical work. The strength was in the group that we had, in that the points of view that you were able to get, both on how you were showing up to coach and be yourself, and how you came across, was really good, because you weren't in a homogenous group that would effectively just become an echo chamber. So it kept you on your toes, and I think that was really, really good. I think what also struck me was the order with which you go through the modules. There's something quite neat about the chronology of beginning, middle, and end in terms of how the course was pulled together. I think what that helped to do was make sure that you could stay true to the process you'd signed up to. So think, right, okay, when you're starting off a coaching arrangement, or you get the fundamentals of that absolutely nailed, and then you move on to the next bit. And I think it just helped to land and embed all the different areas of learning in a very structured and coherent way. And I think that all led through to the assessment as well, which I think when you start feels like it's going to be miles away, but comes along very quickly, in that having that chronologically based way of learning helps you to map exactly how you can develop your own coaching style, develop your own coaching model, and all of that. It enables it to emerge very naturally. And I think that was the hunch I had when going into the course, and that was borne out in doing it as well. So thoroughly recommended. Oh, the greatest challenge. I think there were two. The first one, I think we all had in coming onto it, and I'll come on to that. The second one was in learning to coach in a way that doesn't necessarily fall naturally within my personality or skill set. So I'll cover the first one. And that is being prepared just to be vulnerable with a group of people that you don't know. And I think that became apparent quite quickly in the first exercise we had, where we had to be quite honest about what our motivations were, why we were here, and encourage each other to speak as freely as possible. In fact, one of the first things we did was we contracted for being comfortable about being uncomfortable, not being judged. And I think in a room full of strangers, that's hard enough. In a room full of virtual strangers, it's even harder. But that said, I think we got over that quickly, and that was well handled by the faculty staff. The second one is much more focused on the coaching specifics, which is the way in which I think and the way in which I work is very visual. So I use metaphors a lot, and that continues to show up in my coaching practice now. I think it's when you're starting to look at different techniques which don't necessarily fall naturally within you. And I think the biggest lesson I had, and I still learn this when I'm coaching clients, is you have to go where the client goes. And if the client's not responding to the thing that you think you're really good at, you can't do it, and you've got to go elsewhere. And I think it's the getting over the discomfort of having various different tools in your coaching toolbox, which you can pull on depending on the person, or the client rather, that shows up in front of you. I think I found that the hardest thing, because I had to suffer in some of the many coaching demos we did, both in front of faculty and peer-to-peer. And that was quite hard. But what I learned was you learn from watching other people as well. So I say for me, that was the hardest thing, or those were the two hardest things. I think coming into it, I thought, I know who I am, I know what I'm really good at, and equally I know what I'm rubbish at, and what aren't my strengths. I think what surprised me was the extent to which others were able to hold a mirror up to you and comment quite candidly on, I noticed you did this, I noticed you did that. And there's two levels to it. The first level is probably much more of a body language one, which is people will say, oh, I noticed that you do this, or you do that, or you use your hands a lot, which I do, or whatever it might be. And it makes you very conscious of that. But I think what it also enabled me to do was to think, okay, why do I do that? And then almost trace a path back to, okay, I probably do it because of that. And it was actually quite revealing. And the person I came into and the coach I thought I was going to be was not the coach that came out the other end. That's not because I had a personality transplant or anything in the midst of doing the program. But what it did mean was, I think I took what I saw to be the best bits of others and tried to implement those in a way that was right for me. And I think what it helped me to do was to be much more humble and open-minded to the fact that there's more than one way of doing things. And I think that was probably the biggest learning for me. And if I look back now at the course essay that I wrote right at the end of it, which charted my coaching journey, bore that out, and it talked about, the person that came into it, and then the elements that then came to light after it, and it helped to create quite a nice narrative arc through the whole piece. And then I think in no small measure, it's really helped me to shape the coaching offering that I've now developed. I came into it knowing that I wanted to make a change in how I did things. I worked in advertising agencies, and I was exhausted by it and wanted to do something new. And I think for me, the guiding light was wanting to do something which maximized my strengths and left a lot of my weaknesses behind, and also allowed me more time with my young family. So I came into it with that motivation. I had probably more conviction than others did that it was something I wanted to do as a solo venture eventually, after the course had finished. And so I think for me, it was, right, this is the thing I want to do. I think what I wasn't clear on was the type of people I wanted to coach, or my niche. I think I'm still not completely there on that. So I think while knowing it was something I wanted to do, I think the shape of it and the type of coach I was became apparent through the course. The main thing was, in doing the course, I realized it was absolutely the thing I wanted to do. And I knew that quite early, because I got to the end of, there were 2 days, I think it was a Thursday and a Friday, we did the course on full days on Zoom. And I wasn't tired, I was completely energized. And when I came out of it, I was totally consumed by what I'd done in a way that I hadn't been for some time. And I thought, originally I thought, maybe this is it's something new. It might wear off over time. But I think that feeling continued for the duration of the course. I looked forward to my 2 Zoom days of training, as I think we all did. I knew it was the right decision, because I was totally into it. I went through the coursework with more vigor than I've ever done anything. So I think I'm generally a classic cram before the exam kind of guy. I always have been when I was at school and university and all that. But for this, I made a conscious effort to do it. So I think from a level of, is this the right thing for me to do? The course absolutely corroborated that. I think in terms of, is it something I can build a career out of? Absolutely. I think it gave me more and more confidence, as learning and working alongside such a diverse group and hearing the stories of people that exist within those organizations told me, do you know what? There's an active market for this. And one of the questions I had in my mind, both before starting the course and going through it, was there's a hell of a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of people retraining to be coaches. Is there enough work to go around? And I think what I've found, and certainly with the clients I've got so far, is there absolutely is enough work to go around. And what I learnt was, if I'm going to do the coaching that I want to do, you've got to build it on what I call a credibility base. So, based on the experiences that I've been through, based on what I've learned, based on where I've been, have I got the creds and the chops to be able to sit in front of a client and walk the walk, talk the talk on all of that? And I think that was the key thing. It's knowing that there's enough volume of people in those areas where you've got that credibility base to make it worthwhile. I think I've still got imposter syndrome every day, thinking, oh, is this going to work? Is this going to work? And I think for the reasons that I went into doing it, such as creating a viable business that I can fit around the family and be around for my family and be the person that I am, it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think that the trick behind the coursework that sits around it, so needing to build and consolidate the learning you've had from the modules, was actually quite easy to do. And I think there's two reasons for that. I think one, there's the intent from me and from everyone on the course to want to do it. The second thing, which I think worked really well, was the more informal breakout groups and almost like study sessions that we were encouraged to do as a coaching group outside of it. We did, I forget some of the names of the specific things we did, but we had various different coaching meetups in groups of 4. We divided into groups of 4. Each module, you had a different group, and you would debate your thinking on a certain question. You'd come together with faculty members to talk about it. So I think in that month lag between finishing one module and doing the next, there was always something to keep you on your toes. And I think there was some good momentum there to be able to do that. I think the other thing which really helped was building your confidence early by coaching people. So having practice clients. So I had my first practice client, I think within a couple of weeks of my first module, which was, yes, it was terrifying, but it was also really good to put into practice what I just learnt and make sure it wasn't just an academic exercise, but also build my own confidence. And it was almost like this flywheel of momentum, which they could then build up. And then I think in terms of doing the work itself, it's very well structured, well ordered on the AoEC portal, where you've got the downloadable videos and then the exercises which get you thinking. I think for me, the trick was to do a little bit often, so that it wasn't left until, say, a couple of days before when you probably cram it in. But I think because there was the momentum that comes from having those meetups with the faculty and with your smaller groups to debate them, having the practice coaching, which kind of kept you ticking over, it made it very easy to do. I hadn't done any trading before. I came into it fairly cold at face value. What I did do was experience coaching firsthand myself. So when I went into a leadership position, I had some coaching, and that really helped because for all the reasons that I've now gone into it, but it made me see and find out things about myself that I hadn't thought about. And I really liked the overall approach. And I thought, there's something I can do here myself. So I went into it not having done any qualifications myself, but having a good idea as to the type of fit it might be for me. And I think in the world that I came from, it's the people make the advertising agency model tick. And if there's something that doesn't work there, then something needs to be fixed. And I think I could really see that. And I think that's one of the things that's come out of it. But for me, it was experiencing coaching firsthand and the results that gave me that got me interested. I was in a role at the time and said to them, look, they knew I was going through this course, and it would be great to work with some candidates within the company who aren't direct reports of mine or anything like that, so I can be completely objective. So I thought, right, I can get one from there, which I did. I think I got 2 practice clients from there, so my existing employer. Secondly was just talking to friends of mine to say, this is what I'm doing. I'm not coaching you, friends, but if you know of anyone, then let me know. And I did, and I got them through that. That's the way in which I did it. That helped me. I think it would have been a less rich experience if I'd have just gone down I'll just coach employees from within my current company, because I think there's a certain element of bias that comes into that. And you're probably thinking about the company's agenda in the back of your mind. But I think I had that as one area, and then a much more objective area elsewhere. So I think that for me, the trick was get thinking about it early before the course starts, to start thinking about it rather than being reactive when the call comes from faculty at the end of the first module, which is fairly terrifying when they say, right, go and coach some people now, good luck. I think the first bit around the virtual or non-virtual, I think had the option been there to do face-to-face, I think I can answer this in a way now in a very kind of post-pandemic world, but I think it would, if I were going to do it now and there was the option to do it, it would be good to do it with a blend, so that you had some of the sessions face-to-face and some of them online. I think having the face-to-face connection is great and works wonders, and you can get loads out of it. But I think there were two things I learned from doing it fully online. The first thing was it enabled people from all around the world to dial into it and do it, which kind of helped with that diverse makeup. And also, I was very surprised by this, but the quality of the course delivery and the interactions you could have with people I could not tell the difference between if it was face-to-face or otherwise. What really helped as well was there was lots and lots of changes of pace within the course. So yes, we'd have full sessions like this one when everyone was together, and you'd kind of receive instruction and be taken through PowerPoint. But equally, every half an hour or so, you were taken off into smaller groups. You discussed a certain point, you debated something, you practiced coaching. So there was always something to mix it up. And I think that worked really, really well. As for, do we keep in touch? Yes, we do. In fact, I was texting them just this morning because I've just launched my business. So people have seen my website, so we've been talking about that. But we still do a number of things together. So I've never met any of them, which is weird. I think the weirdest thing is not knowing how tall people is. I don't know. That's a very Zoom thing, isn't it? But we have what we call, there's two things we now do. We do a coaching drop-in once a month, which is someone facilitates an hour's Zoom meeting, and those that can make it, great. Those that can't, that doesn't matter. And we will either just have a general chat, or we'll focus on a particular coaching topic or coaching technique. And the second thing, which I haven't actually been to, but I know is well attended, is they do a book club, which is not necessarily just on coaching techniques and coaching books, but anything in the people development, people psychology space, which just provides another point of view. And I think that's been really good. What I've also done, there are a couple of people who I can particularly relate to on the course, and we still meet up virtually for one-to-ones just to talk about each other's businesses, or as a bit of a knowledge or problem share, really. So I think that was the bit that probably surprised me the most about the course, the extent to which you can build relationships and then retain those, having never met the people in person. I would say that regardless of the type of coach you would go on to be, the fundamentals that the course gives you enables you to build that, and you can take things in your own way. The type of coach I thought I was going to be and I was going to focus on that came into the course is not the one that emerged the other side, and that then changed again to who I'm now looking to coach in my business. And I think that what I learned was you don't have to coach in a rigid set way, and you can try different things. You can park things that just don't, some things just don't work. And I've seen them, completely die within coaching sessions as well. But regardless of the type of coach you go on to be, there are fundamentals which exist irrespective of who you coach, whether they're the most senior people in business or whether they are, as you say, people recovering or coming out from addiction and mental health problems or anything like that. And I think what I learned, and I'm still learning now, is not to put any pressure on that. Go with what feels right, and it will happen naturally, is what I'd say.